waiting to get live. Okay, so we are live. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to Autism Success Academy, specifically Tuesdays with Dr. T. And today we have one of our favorite guests, Catherine Muldoon, to hear, sharing with us a lot about how she is overcoming and teaching others about, making a lifestyle out of healthy foods, out of picky eating, how to deal with that, how to work on gut healing, brain health, as well as being the best mom possible. Okay, so before we help, allow some time for Facebook to catch up and then people to start joining, how about you give us a little background on your journey and how you were teaching others about how to overcome picky eating or making a healthy lifestyle shift and everything in between. Okay?
Of course. So my name is Christine, and I am a nutritional therapy practitioner, and I have 3 kids. And like many individuals, my journey began after I had kids. For some of us, our kids are what wake us up, and that was my experience. And so I kind of started diving into health and nutrition after my first was born. And so a nutritional therapy practitioner is someone who works with ancestral nutrition to heal the body. And my specific niche, what I like to focus on are, I like to help families with picky eating and moms who are either currently pregnant or postpartum. Ideally, you can catch moms pre-conception, but that's really hard in today's society. So those are the kind of what I focus on.
I have been really loving your page. You give such great information as well as the specific breakdown. First, or specifically, recently you shared like a pie, a post in which you shared with a piece of pie be that harm, and the beautiful way that you shared the breakdown on how much sugar and how much stuff and the amount of time it needs the body to let go of the sugar. It was fantastic. So you are putting out really great content and everything. So starting from now, I would like to, and our our audience would really love, because this is like a topic we keep coming back about, the detoxification and healing the gut. Okay, so in your opinion, could you give us 5 important ways or steps that we can detoxify our gut?
Yeah, so probably the very first step that you would start with is basically an elimination. So you would begin eliminating processed foods, packaged foods, foods that are high in sugars, foods that have a lot of chemicals in them, such as artificial colors, vegetable oils. That would be, number 1 is usually begin eliminating vegetable oils, artificial colors, things like that. So eliminate the processed foods.
Eliminate processed food.
Oh, sorry, what?
I'm just summarizing. Eliminate processed food.
Yes. Number 2 would be ensure that the elimination pathways are open. So this means making sure that the individual is having regular bowel movements, because if we're detoxifying and there's not regular bowel movements, then all of that is going to accumulate in the body. And instead of eliminating those toxins, they're going to create more problems.
Exactly.
So that can be done with magnesium or other supplements to help if the individual is not having regular bowel movements. Usually supplements help open up elimination pathways. And then I would say you would probably need to test specifically for your child to see which foods are triggering inflammation, and then go a little bit deeper and remove those foods that are triggering inflammation. So that could be, for some kids, it could be gluten or grains. For some kids, it could be sugar. For some, it could be dairy, soy. It kind of depends on, and for each child. So testing to see which foods are causing the inflammation and then remove those. And then finally, work on healing the gut through nutrient-dense foods. So things like bone broth and meat stock and foods that are easy for the body to digest, and foods that are healing and sealing that gut lining, and really nutrient dense foods, bone marrow, eggs, things like that.
One of the reason I keep following you and keep trying to bring you up, because we have such like good step, like whatever I believe you also believe, and we are working on the same route. Alhamdulillah, that's so nice to connect to people who are on the same page, I would say. So summarizing, for the 5 ways to detoxify, the first one was to I forgot the first one.
Yeah, it's okay.
I remember the other 4.
No, it's okay. Eliminate processed foods.
Okay, eliminate processed food. The second one is to make sure that we are eliminating the, pooping properly, we are evacuating properly, and if needed, to take obviously natural based supplements, right? So the third one is to make sure that we are doing some sort of testing so that we can find which foods are triggering our kids, and then make our diet out of that, eliminating the foods that they are having problem, and then having those which they are not having, right? And the fourth one is, what was the fourth one?
Incorporating nutrient-dense healing
Incorporating nutrient-dense food. And the fifth one is?
The fifth one I'm going to add is removing toxins from the environment. So whether those are, the clothes that kids are wearing, or maybe it's your cleaning products, or maybe there's mold in the home, or maybe it's heavy metals. Maybe children have an amalgam filling in their mouth, or for some kids, maybe, there's vaccines that have to be detoxified, anything like that. So removing toxins from the environment.
Okay. A lot of us feel like, environmental toxin is such a, I would say, like such a prominent part. How can they do that? How can they eliminate the environmental pollution just from being, on their own?
Yeah. So it can be really overwhelming, and I think it's better to just focus on one and really do it well, depending on how severe the child is, of course. And so probably what I would say is starting with cleaning products. That's actually a really, really easy one, that we don't realize that the cleaning products that we're putting on the floor or on the windows or on our tables, our kids are touching constantly. And so if you have a chemical that you're putting on the floor to clean the floor, and then your baby's crawling all over it, then they're being exposed to that on a daily basis. So I would say cleaning products would be number one. And then depending on the child and the severity, check your home for mold. Mold can be kind of like a hidden trigger that you really know about.
Yeah. For me, it has been, in Canada, it wasn't an issue. After I came back, I have been having like everywhere that I go, I'll understand that there are mites and molds around. I could detect because my nose will just shut down. Shut down.
Yeah.
It's such a hard task, right?
Right. And I think, so nowadays allergies are common, but they're not normal. We are not supposed to have allergies. And if we have allergies, then it's a sign that there's inflammation and that there's healing that needs to happen in the gut. And it's pretty tough to work on. Those are usually a little more complex, but
I want to reiterate on that. I mean, like replay of what you said, because a lot of the time, because it becomes a part of our life, so we think that it's acceptable. It's normal to have allergies. It's normal to have a kid who's picky. It's normal to have a kid who's not sleeping, and other behavior and mood problems, because we are in the life, and then we are being told that this is what life is supposed to be. But actually, these are not supposed to be a normal part of life, right?
Right. That's why I
All
like
right.
the term. So what I say is, it's common but not normal.
It's common but not normal. I should have that as a, like a play card, and have your face, and then we're saying like it's not normal to have allergies, no matter how much you think that it is. Okay. All right. So moving on to the next question, since we are in the gut brain arena, so we have solved the 5 important ways to heal the gut. let's talk about 5 important ways to detoxify the brain.
Okay. So as we had talked about previously in our other
Can you hear me?
live together, we talked about the gut-brain connection and how the gut and the brain are connected. And researchers are starting to really dig into that and realize that they influence each other. So if you have a healthy gut, you're going to have a healthy brain. If you have a healthy brain, then you'll have a healthy gut, vice versa. And something that they've also started discovering is that in the same way that we have leaky gut, where if your gut has holes in it and your junctions are not tight to keep out toxins, the same thing can happen in the brain. So you can also have leaky brain syndrome, which is so fascinating. And it works in the gut.
This is the first time I'm hearing it. We can have leaky brain syndrome. It's interesting. Dig more deeper, please.
Or I guess like a leaky brain barrier is what it's called specifically.
Okay.
So in the brain, there's also tight junctions, and these are meant to be to keep out toxins from coming into the brain. And so when they're kind of like open like this, then toxins can seep through, and it goes through the blood-brain barrier. And then that's when there's issues that can arise. And this is actually called neuroinflammation. And the same variables that affect our gut can affect neuroinflammation. So things like mold, heavy metals, parasites, I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, an unhealthy diet and lifestyle, obviously. So like all of these things that affect our gut can also affect our brain. Sorry, I have my notes here as well. So when we're healing the gut, we're also healing the brain. And similar to the way you would address gut healing, you would do something similar for addressing
brain inflammation.
Brain inflammation. So the first thing that you would have to do is figure out what is causing that neuroinflammation. And again, that would go back to like testing. So figuring out, is it heavy metal toxicity? Is it mold? Is it parasites? Obviously, diet and lifestyle has something to do with this. Then you would want to incorporate foods that are nutrient dense for the brain. And these are foods that have the ability to cross the blood-brain barrier. And I'm actually not personally very familiar with a lot of these foods. The only one that I know of is curcumin, because it's a polyphenol. So you're looking for foods that are polyphenols that can cross the blood-brain barrier. And there's a few of them, but I know curcumin is one of them. I think I'm saying it correctly. And then also a diet high in antioxidants. So antioxidants help lower inflammation, and examples of foods that increase that inflammation are vegetable oils. So I would say I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to eliminate vegetable oils. They are rancid. They deplete our body of our antioxidant stores, and they're just so detrimental to the body. So anytime you see any food that has been cooked in a vegetable oil, so this is canola oil, safflower oil, soy oil, corn, peanut, even sunflower in many cases, any of these oils, just completely eliminate from the diet. And okay. All right. Okay. So
if we're if I am not butting in, if we have to avoid those oil, then what should we use? Which oils should we use then?
Yeah. So this perfect segue. Use fats that are beneficial for the brain. That would be raw butter, ghee, coconut oil, and then all of your animal fats like tallow, lard, pork fat, chicken fat. There's a few, duck fat. I'm trying to think. There's always one that I miss. Butter, ghee.
I personally love to use the skin, organic chicken or organic beef, the skin part for organic chicken, as well as for the beef lard, not lard really, beef fat.
Tallow. Yeah, the beef.
Yeah,
beef
the one
fat.
that's, okay. All right. So we are always told, that, fats are bad for heart. Too much fat is bad. It's a misconception, right? So I want you to help us accept that it's a misconception that fats are bad for us.
Right.
You know?
So the brain is the a large percentage of the brain is made of cholesterol. So we need cholesterol in our diet in order to have a healthy brain, and especially children. So young babies and children, growing children, they need tons of fat to be able to develop their brain properly. It coats the myelin sheath. And it's these neurons that are in the brain, and it's coated in cholesterol. So you need cholesterol. Eggs are a superfood. We need eggs in our diet. And all of these healthy fats. The other thing that I want to say about these healthy fats is they're stable. That is the difference between an animal fat and a man-made vegetable oil. And it goes back to the molecular structure of them. So a saturated fat, which is what we've been told is bad for us, is actually a very stable fat. This means that it's a hydrogen, that it's a carbon saturated with hydrogens. So
all 4 of the carbon is blocked.
Right. So this means that it's not going to be affected very much by heat, oxygen, and light. It's stable. This is solid at room temperature, liquid when you heat it up. And these are the fats that our ancestors have been using from the beginning of time. And then we have the polyunsaturated fats, which are the vegetable oils. And these fats are extremely delicate. They're not meant to be exposed to heat. They're not meant to be exposed to light. And they're not meant to be exposed to oxygen. They are exposed to all 3 of these in the processing of these oils. And then you see them in their plastic containers under the fluorescent lights in the grocery store, and you're consuming a rancid product. In fact, in order to make that product appealing to the public, they have to add a deodorizer to it to not make it smell bad because it's rancid, so it smells rancid. And then they have to add like a chlorine product to it to also make it taste better. So it's not natural. Don't eat them, please don't eat them. But yes, I recommend the healthy fats. Alternate.
Okay, you're back.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. So far we have got some really important points from you. We need to change our cooking oil from the ones that we get in the groceries, like vegetable oil, to the ones that are more stable and more better for us. For example, animal fats, as well as olive oil, ghee, raw butter, and coconut oil. Right. Okay. So here is a caveat. Even in countries which are like developed, they have this way of saying that the bad thing is actually the good thing. I have read some label when you said PUFA, polyunsaturated fatty acid.
Right.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
You kind of froze.
I can hear you.
Okay, so they're actually advertising and marketing it, saying that this oil is rich in PUFA and MUFA, so it's very good for you.
Yeah.
The very particle that is bad for me is actually being advertised saying that it's good for me. And this oil is rich in PUFA and MUFA, so it's very good for us.
Yeah. That's really sad.
Can you hear me?
Sad.
I think you're...
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what I was saying is, that's really sad.
You keep...
Oh no. I'm here.
It's okay. Let's give you a minute to fix your internet or Wi-Fi, whatever that you are using.
Okay.
Now you are back, fully back.
Okay. Perfect.
All right. So let's get on with the brain detoxification.
Yeah. Okay. So we talked about incorporating the healthy fats. We also need to incorporate DHA and vitamin D, magnesium, and glutathione. Glutathione is an antioxidant. So these would all be beneficial supplements to include to help detoxify the brain and bring improved brain health. And
Mm-hmm.
and then going back again to when you're doing gut healing, that is benefiting the brain. So also incorporating a wide variety of foods to improve your gut microbiome, which will in turn help your brain microbiome. So that would mean not eating the same foods every day, really trying to eat seasonally. So you're probably going to eat a lot of foods that are in season, let's say in the winter, but then those foods are going to be phased out. And when spring comes, you're going to eat a different set of fruits and vegetables. And for example, dairy cows, they don't give milk in the wintertime. So you're not really consuming dairy in the winter. You're relying more on cheeses and butter in the wintertime until there is dairy again in the spring and summer. So really just like rotating our foods the way our ancestors ate. So we have the benefit of globalization, meaning that I can get avocados from Mexico in December, but that's not the way that we were meant to eat. We're not meant to eat avocados year round. We're not meant to eat tomatoes year round.
Yeah, it's seasonally, and something that I read somewhere, to make sure that it's not more than 10 kilometers outside your range, something like that. Not grown more than 10 kilometers or 20 kilometers outside of where I live, right?
Right. Yeah, if possible, yeah.
It is possible, actually. If you know, and if you have the dedication to really try, then it's possible. And also the fact that, sometimes it happens when we are in the big groups, some mom maybe try, in autism community, what happens, some mom wants to change the diet, and they are asking questions in the groups, Facebook groups, and then hundreds of people will come and say, no need to change diet. How am I going to do it? It's so hard and whatnot. But whoever have done it, I have seen they have done it pretty easily. The first point is to have the mindset shift that this is the treatment, or this is the way for life to go, right? Yes. So we have a question here. Sultana Razia, she asks, she's from New York. I am sure of that. She's one of my friends. So she asked, what about avocado oil? Is that an acceptable oil?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a lot of controversy around avocado oil. I think it is an oil that you can use at higher heats. And I personally do think it's okay to use avocado oil in moderation. So avocado oil is not one that I personally cook with a lot, but I do use it to make mayonnaise, for example, or occasionally maybe in baking. I'm not using it regularly. I really am focusing on the animal fats as like my stable oils. And just the way I mentioned how we're supposed to be rotating fruits and vegetables, rotate your fats. So don't cook with the same fats every single day. Rotate the fats.
Okay. So we have a bunch of fats that we can try, right? Either butter or ghee or coconut oil or olive oil. I think in between these four, or sesame oil as well. Sesame oil, if it's cold pressed, should be good for the gut as well, because it has a lot of the important DHA. I read somewhere, I guess, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you to Sultana for your question. So moving on to the next part of our talk here today. You work, and I have seen you post a lot about picky eating, how to overcome, because in our autism community, it's like an almost having thing. We have picky eaters always in our home. So how do we work through their pickiness? How do we overcome the picky eatingness of our kids? How do we do that?
Such a great question. This is actually one of my favorite questions. Okay, so the first thing that I would say is determining whether your child is a severe picky eater or not. And as you mentioned, there's many kids on the ASD diagnosis that are picky eaters, but this is because of their gut issues in combination with their brain issues as well. So, but you would determine if your child is a picky eater, and this is a kid that is eating less than 20 foods. less than 20 foods, okay? This is a child that's eating maybe 10 foods. So on your two hands, you can count the foods that your child is eating, and they will not eat anything else. That would be considered a severe picky eater. In general, I want to say that picky eating is a normal developmental stage. For most kids, they're going to go through a picky eating phase between the ages of 2 and 4-ish. It can last longer than 4, depending on the child. And this is about the age in which they are beginning to realize that they have independence, that they are autonomous, and that they can control certain aspects of their life. And one of them is what they eat. So then this leads me into figuring out the root cause of the picky eating. We can't really fix the picky eating until we know what the root cause is. So for some kids, it's physiological, like I mentioned. It's the gut is influencing their food choices, and that's why they're only gravitating towards one food group, or they're only gravitating towards a specific color of food, depending on the child. And for some, it's emotional. For some, this means that, remember how I talked about how picky eaters, they need control, okay? So they're beginning to realize that they are independent and that they can control certain aspects of their life. So if it's an emotional reason, then it could be changes in their life that are out of their control, and the only aspect that they can control is picky eating. So for example, kids that have mom is pregnant, mom is about to have a baby, or there's a new baby in the house. And when I say new baby, it can be all the way up to a year old. Okay, that is still considered a new baby for a sibling. Whether you're moving, a loved one passed away, maybe they're in a new school, maybe they had a new teacher. All of these changes are out of our kids' control, and they affect their need for control, and this can be expressed in picky eating. Okay, so once we get to the root cause, then we can begin actually implementing steps on our daily life for how to reduce or eliminate picky eating. And the step number 1 would be going back to eliminating processed foods. Eliminate those processed foods because they're hyperpalatable. They're causing your kid, they're creating an imbalance in your kid's gut microbiome. They're causing them to crave these foods even more, and they're messing with your child's innate intuition of what their body needs. So honestly, my recommendation is cold turkey. Just completely throw them out. They're not in your house anymore. I'm so sorry, but we're not going to eat these foods anymore. Oh man, we ran out. Oh, you're right.
Works.
Yeah. So just get rid of them. That would be step number 1. And then some daily actionable steps that you can take would be simple things like, when you're serving a plate of food, serve them really small amounts. We tend to think that, I'm going to put a lot of food on my kid's plate, but that's actually really overwhelming for them. And it's better to not waste food, and for a child to look at a plate of food and think, okay, this is manageable, I can eat this, versus a heaping plate of food. My other recommendation would be to separate it. If it's new foods that they're not familiar with, keep the foods separate, small amounts of each. Depending on how severe the picky eater is, you can have a safety food. So a food that you know for a fact your child will eat. A note on safety foods, I recommend alternating the safety foods. If you're serving the same safety food at every single meal, eventually your child is going to begin rejecting that safety food. So just alternate.
A lot of the clients actually ask, a lot of the people on the audience also, they keep asking, like, my child, you told me to do this, I did with her or with him. He took a few days and then he stopped eating that thing for altogether. So what do I do? In fact, today also someone DM'd me asking this. I'm like, it's actually not so easy to go deeper in just a DM, because I need to understand the situation of the child in general. Because you have asked, you have said also that we have to go through a lot of steps to understand the reason.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why we are able to overcome, we are able to overcome because we are looking it at microscopic level, like the root level, why the child is being a picky eater, because we do not accept it just like their personality or a behavior. There is a reason why your child is super picky, and it takes some time to understand and then maybe customize based on that, right? So but still you are giving a lot of valuable information, and I'm sure they're going to be really valuable for them as well, and then they will implement and find lots of benefits out of it, right? So what else do you have for us in terms of picky eating?
Yeah. So the other things I want to talk about in picky eating is something called the division of responsibility, which is by the Ellen Sater Institute. And it is the concept that as parents, the only aspects of feeding that we have control over for our kids are what they eat. So we have control over what we're going to serve them. We have control over when we're going to serve them meals and how. Okay, that's it. And then our kids have control over how much they eat or whether they eat at all. And that's it. So this part's really, really, really hard for parents. Just the idea of letting go, placing a plate of food in front of them, and then saying, you know what, it's up to them now. If they want to eat it, they can eat it. If they don't, then that is okay. And as adults, coming to the table relaxed and confident and calm, and letting our kids take, be autonomous and decide whether they're going to eat their food or not. Now, part of what helps is bringing a hungry child to the table. So if your child has been snacking all day and they come to dinner time, they're not going to be hungry. They're not going to eat. And this is really hard in today's world when snacks are just so rampant. I mean, we give snacks on every hour, basically. Our kids don't need to snack so much throughout the day. And it's really good for them to give their digestion a break and to also feel what it's like to be hungry, for that ghrelin hormone to be released in their body, and for them to experience that hunger sensation. So I can't recommend enough, maybe setting a time in the afternoon, or depending on what meal it is that you want to focus on. If it's dinner, then set a time in the afternoon in which there's no snacks. And what you're doing is you're just saying, oh, honey, I'm so sorry, but mealtime is in 1 hour, or mealtime is in 2 hours. We're not going to eat anything right now. And you can explain it to them that we're waiting until dinner time, and support them through, any emotions that they have coming up about that.
There's not a single thing that I do not agree with. Okay, you have said like, you are my doppelganger, danger or whatever that thing is. Because we do preach so much about it, and there is a lot of things. You mentioned the word letting go. I teach that specifically in my program as well, because a lot of our clients also have a problem to let go of the control, because we feel like if the child is rejecting the food, it's she or she's actually rejecting me. Deep down, the emotion that we feel as mother is that we are being rejected, right?
Yes.
So the important point of just letting go is so much valuable, because too good, man, too good. So moving on to the next question is, how do we as mom balance that parenting aspect as well as taking care of ourselves, and do it all without breaking down?
I mean, I don't know. We're all human, so there's definitely going to be some breakdowns, and I think that those are okay. Okay, so this one can get pretty deep. I think that as a society, for many of us, personal boundaries were not modeled for us as children, and so because if we were in a home where personal boundaries were not modeled, then we as adults are going to have a really hard time being able to set those boundaries for ourselves. So probably the first step would be recognizing that maybe as a child, your parents did not set clear boundaries, or maybe as a child, there was codependency in your family. And for many of us, codependency was pretty common. We grew up in households where that was common. And so basically what that is that is when there are no boundaries in a relationship. People, the adults, would take on the role of controlling another person's emotions, their decisions, or their behavior. So this idea of trying to control another person. We would take on these roles as children and basically deny our own needs. And what this manifests in adulthood is like people pleasing or enabling, or trying to like fix other individuals. And so if we have any residual effects of this, then this is going to seep into our current relationships, our daily interactions with other people, and the way we parent even. So probably what I would say about balancing mom life is it begins by setting the boundaries. And this could be, the boundaries could be time, where you are specifically setting a time aside for yourself. It could be financial boundaries. You are going to spend money on something, or you're not going to spend money on something. It could be, I'm trying to think, emotional boundaries, physical boundaries, just working on setting those boundaries. And then another aspect would be setting the intention for a small promise and following through with it every day. And when I say a small promise, that small promise can be as small as saying, in the morning, the first thing I'm going to do is drink water. And you do that every day for 30 days, and then you begin trusting yourself and begin this process of loving yourself a little bit more, because you have managed to drink water every morning for 30 days. So kind of beginning this process of reparenting ourselves, which is life's work, I believe. This is not something that's going to happen overnight. This is not something that's going to happen in a year. This is literally, small actionable steps every day over a culmination of our lifetime, essentially. And then, so I also want to add exercise in there. If you have the ability, and again, this is setting a time boundary, so making the time to be able to exercise. Even walking outside counts as exercise. So you can say, oh, I don't have time to go to the gym. Oh, I don't have money to go to the gym. No, you can walk outside around your neighborhood or wherever it is that you live for 30 minutes. And the benefit of the light that you're being exposed to, the nature, you're inhaling all of the, the diversity that's outside in the air. And all of that is going to benefit you both physically and emotionally. So just something as simple as walking outside. And then I also really believe in journaling. It's not for everybody, but for some people, it really, really helps to put your thoughts down on paper and write down what were your struggles throughout the day, or if you happen to notice maybe a particular trigger, going back and reflecting on why was it that when my child said X, Y, and Z, I blew up. Those kinds of things. I think that journaling is really, really beneficial.
Yeah, that's one of the most important thing that we try to bring in is the mindset piece, the emotional stability piece. Because I too believe it totally that when I am strong, when I have my boundaries, when I have had my cup full, that's when I can pour for my kids and for my families, right? So a lot of the time, it's actually the fact that we don't understand that our emotional health is also as important as our child's development, because they're hooked onto us. They are grounded in this world through us. So when I am calm and collected, that's when I can actually move through the task of whatever goals that I have with my children, be it overcoming picky eating, be it health, brain development or gut development or whatever that it's in between, right? So achieving the milestone for our kids, we need to take care of ourselves as well. because that's how we can, reduce the gap, bridge
Right.
between the hardship from here to there.
Right. I want to add something that when we set these boundaries and we verbalize them to our kids, we're teaching our kids that this is actually a good thing. This is healthy. So for example, if there's, I don't know, screaming children and you sense, you can feel your heart beating faster, you can feel your body getting tense, you can feel that you are about to explode. And if you have the capabilities to stop in that moment and say, you know what, honey, I'm going to walk outside. It can be in your backyard, and I'm just going to, walk laps around my backyard so I can calm down. Mommy's feeling really stressed right now, or mommy can feel her heart beating faster. She's going to take some deep breaths to calm down. You're modeling this regulation. You're modeling this need for boundaries for your kids. And they're seeing this. And then eventually they're going to learn, hey, when I'm feeling really, really, really stressed, or when my body's feeling really tight, or my heart's beating really fast, if I take deep breaths, then it will help regulate me. And that is a lesson that is immeasurable.
Yeah, totally. As I said, there is not a single thing that I do not agree with you to everything that you have said. You have your kid is waiting for you, and I won't take much of your time because you don't have. Do you have the nanny today? Was you able to manage?
She doesn't show up until 11 a.m. my time.
Okay. So as a wrap up, what would you? Okay, because it's so much fun having you here, and hearing you talk about every single thing that we totally agree on each other. As a bonus question, how would you, if you have 5 things to say to our parents or specifically to our moms on the importance, like specific importance of mindset or emotional stability for our children's improvement or recovery, or whatever word that people understand and connect to.
5 things. You said 5 things? Okay.
Yes.
So I would actually start with, if people are open to reading a book, there is a book by the holistic psychologist, Dr. Nicole LaPera,
I
and
think you
it's
went.
called How to Do the Work. I would actually start with a book. Read this book. It will give you the steps for how to begin reparenting yourself, and it'll completely open your eyes on maybe some personality traits or just behaviors and the way you are acting, and you maybe obviously all subconscious and you have no idea, and you'll realize, oh my gosh, this has this root, or this is why I'm behaving this way. So I would start with that, and then just to become more aware of why we're behaving the way we are. And then I would also say the exercise piece, I really, really can't emphasize enough how healing it can be to just walk outside in the sunlight. So if you have access to the first morning sun, walking outside, getting that energy and that connection with the sunlight first thing in the morning. Drinking water. It sounds really simple, but drinking filtered water is also really, really good for our emotional health, our physical health. If we're hydrated, then properly hydrated, then we are more likely to be stable throughout the day. And then I'm gonna go back to journaling. Going back to the journaling piece, and the last one, which I think for each person it's different, but if you believe in a higher power, whatever that is, there's the spiritual piece. So really connecting with, if there's if it's the Bible, if it's whatever religious aspect that you connect with, I really truly believe that is almost like the missing piece in today's society, especially as we become more and more secular. There is a creator, whether we believe it or not. We were created, and there is a higher power, and there is a spiritual aspect to the world, and finding a way to connect with that. And for some individuals, that might not be religion, that might be nature, and that I think that that's absolutely totally valid. In the same way that a religious aspect is just as valid for spirituality. But yeah, I would say that's my fifth one.
Like the four quadrants of life: physical health, mental health, emotional health, and spiritual health, right?
Yeah. Yes.
I
Yes.
try my best to make that balance, and also to teach those who are under me to have that balance as a, special needs parent, because we need it even more in these days than, previous generations, I would say. Right.
Right.
All right. So we have been quite a while here. Time just flew by. I don't know how we are, like, 50 minutes into it. Thank you so much, Christine. You, as usual, this is actually part 2. I have already uploaded part 1 today in Instagram. So this is going back as part 2. And I cannot thank you enough for bringing in all the information that you gave us today, because I'm sure they're pretty much actionable and they are beneficial as well. So if you are somebody who wants to do gut healing, who wants to do brain healing, I suggest you try whatever that she has shared with us. Rewatch this live, make notes, and then start working, because it's just 1,000 steps, step by step, and you will get the hang out of it. Right. Thank you, Christine. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you
bringing the
so
time,
much. This
even
was
when you are busy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. This was wonderful. And I think it's really cool
Thank
that we're
you.
on
I'll see you soon, okay?
we're doing this.
Inshallah, inshallah. Maybe we will have a part 3.
Yeah, you let me know.
Okay. All right. So I'll see you soon. Thank you so much, sweetie. Thank you, everyone,
Bye.
for being with us. As always, we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.